Welcome, Crafty Friends. Annie Collins here for Pajama Crafters. Today we're going to create this shaker card. Let me go over the products I used to create this card. I'm using the Dog Days of Summer stamp set for this card, because it is National Pet Week. I'm using the 2 pups from this, and that's all. This is a cute set. It has a variety of pups playing in the pool, sun tanning, and, create scenery and so forth. Well, like I said, I'm only going to use the 2 pups. I'm using the little husky and the other little guy with the stick. I'm combining that with the Mix and Match Celebrations sentiment stamp. I'm going to use the bigger stamps up here that say Happy Pet, and then for day, I'm going to just use it from the wedding day. I'm just going to cut that in half. Well, I'm going to mask it. For our paper, I'll be using the Emerald Isle paper pack. Oof, I can talk. This has 12 designs. There's 24 altogether, double-sided. And I'm going to use this plaid looking paper right here. On the other side, you have these beautiful leaves, which are great, but not for what we're using it today. We're just going to use the plaid. So this is a nice variety paper pack. I'm also going to bring in the Pebble Beach cardstock. Let me move everything out of our way. I'm going to show you the paper. This is my acetate. Here you go. I have the paper here, and I've die cut it with a die from my stash, so it's slightly smaller. There you go. Nice, good view of what our pattern paper would look like. And there's our card. And I have our embellishments that's built in my tray, so I'll gather those up in a sec. And here are our pups. So here's the little husky and the other little pup. I've stamped them onto Marshmallow Cardstock, and I've trimmed them out. I colored them with alcohol markers. And the husky I did in cool grays, and the other one I did in warm grays. I have a piece of the Pebbled Beach cardstock that I'm going to have for our sentiment. That's the same thing I die cut our frame from. So let me bring in my frame. I used a die from my stash for this frame, and it cuts out these little paws and bones. So here's the Pebble Beach cardstock. I love it because it's nice and heavy and it's textured. It has those little fibers running through it. It's so pretty. So I cut this twice. I cut it once from the Pebble and then once from green cardstock. And then I did the inlay of those little paw prints and all that. I did that off screen because it's quite a lot of work, but it made it look so much nicer. I kept the little piece that I cut the frame from. I'm going to use that as my layering piece behind our pattern paper, like so. Just line it up. And instead of it going into the garbage, I'm going to use it like so. And then since I have that nice opening there from the frame, you can see the pattern paper through. Here's my acetate. It has a film on it. That's why it looks cloudy. You remove the film to see it nice and clear. I have some distress ink. I'm going to ink our frame, just the little edge of it. Here's a little blending tool for that. And I have our embellishment wand, which we'll use to help remove the film from our acetate and to remove the backing of our frame. And then I have some foam strips here. This is from Barely Art. They're black foam strips, and that's what we're going to use for our to create our shaker. This little strip here, I'm going to stamp our sentiment. I have my frog press. We're going to use that for a few things. And I have Barely Art glue in our cupcake holder, which I love, that has the heart is magnetic. It holds your little pin in case you need it. I'm going to clear my desk with all this stuff so we can start by stamping our sentiment. So I'm going to grab that little strip of Pebble Beach cardstock. Now this will speed up a bit. I did that just to save us some time. And I'm going to bring in the Mix and Match celebration stamp set. That's where we're going to get our sentiment. Slightly off screen here. I'm sorry about that. I'll be back on screen, just gathering everything. I'm peeling off the sentiments. I have the Happy New, and then Happy Pet, and then the wedding day. we're going to mask off the wedding part and just use the word day. Now you can snip apart your stamp if you prefer instead of masking. I'm going to leave mine together. I'm just going to mask it off. So I'm going to start with wedding day. I'm placing it about where I want it. I'll pick it up. I'll adjust everything. And then I'm going to bring in some repositionable tape. If you have masking tape or masking paper, you can use that. I'm going to cover the word wedding. And then I'm just going to ink up the word day. I'm using some Stellar ink for that. From my stash, I removed the mask and then stamp the word. I'm going to use my frog press for a nice even pressure. I'm going to stamp it one more time. Going to replace the mask once again. Ink it up. And then remember to remove the mask and then stamp. I've stamped with the mask. I've made a mess in the past, so that's why you make sure you remember to remove your mask. Now that I have the word day, I can remove that, and we can place the word pet. I'm going to place that right next to it so I know where I'm going, and then I'll stamp that. And I'll just repeat the process with the word happy, and then our sentiment will be set to go. Now we just clean that off and go on to the next one. I love the mix and match celebration stamp set. It has a great variety of combination of words you can use. It has a larger print, a smaller print, and a beautiful congratulation that is in script. And you have a few little icons to add to any celebration. So it's a great set to have in your arsenal, in your craft room. All right, so we have that all set. I'll remove that, and I'm going to set that to the side, and we'll start building our shaker parts. So I'm going to bring in our acetate and our frame. Now, with our embellishment one side has the little waxy part to pick up embellishment, and the other side has the little pokey part. That's what I use to peel back the film on my acetate, and I'm going to use it to peel back and the backing for my adhesive. I have double-sided adhesive on here. Now I put a bunch of little strips because I ran out of my wide one, but I edit most of this out so you didn't have to watch me peel off all that backing. So I removed one side completely off of the acetate and placed it onto the frame. I'm going to use the frog press here to help me get even pressure across. And now I can remove the other side of the film from the acetate. Now you can see how nice and crisp and clear it is. I'm cutting off any excess acetate because I made it larger than my frame. When I cut it larger than. There we go. And now I have these two little pieces. Now this is nice, sturdy acetate, so you can toss those. I like to keep them in case I want to do any floating elements. All right, so here's our frame ready to go. Now we can add our foam adhesive. Now this is pretty tall foam adhesive, so I only need one layer of it. If your adhesive is foam adhesive is a little thinner, then place 2 layers so that your shaker bits can move around. I'm going to cut off any excess of the foam adhesive here and just move it over to the other side. Now I'm not worried about it being perfect on this side here. I want to make sure it stays within the frame because that's not where I'm putting my shaker bits. So once you put this, if you're going to put it, you have to make sure that it creates a nice seal all the way around so your elements do not escape, so to speak. All right, for the center is where I'm going to put my shaker part. I'm going to peel the other side, exposing the adhesive on both sides of my foam strip. And then that way it's easier to manipulate into a curved shape. Now I'm going to place this, I'm going to check. I want to make sure, since my frame has like this little decorative thing design, I want to make sure it's not showing. That's the main thing. You don't want it to show through. Once I know it's placed properly, now I can add the next strip. See how I butt up nice and tight next to each other and go around again. Then I can trim off any of the excess, making sure it's, again, nice and tight, butt up against each other so no of those elements can escape. I'm going to use anything extra to fill in those little corners so my frame does not cave in. So there we go. I'll expose all the adhesive on my frame here. Since I am going to place my shakers directly onto my shaker bits directly onto the card, I'm going to remove all the backing here because it'll be easier for me to then line it up. So I'm gently removing that. Just about done. One more strip to go. There we go. And I'm going to set this to the side for a second so we can get our card base elements. So I'm going to go ahead and start by adhering the pattern paper to the frame. And I call it a frame because it's the cutout pieces where I cut the frame from. And now you see, now I have a nice backer piece, if I can get it on straight, for our pattern paper. Right? And then I'll adhere this whole panel to the card front. Go ahead and get that adhered on. And then I can bring my shaker elements and place them onto this panel. Okay, line that up. So I'm going to grab my shaker bits and I'm going to place them right here in the center. So first I got to get them out of my tray, which I spilled them when I was moving my tray. So I'm pouring them back into my little embellishment tray. These embellishment trays are from the shop, and I get a nice pack of 3. Now, this little bone came from the frame, and I kept the ones that were from the Pebbled Beach cardstock because I thought it would great. This embellishment mix I have has little paw prints and little pups in it, which is so cute. All right, so I'm going to center that. Now I can grab my frame, and this is when I realized I forgot to ink my edges. So I'm going to grab my distress ink really quickly and just ink it. Preferably, you will remember before you put your foam adhesive and ink your frame if you're going to ink your frame edges. You would do it before, but it can still be done, as you can see. So I'm going to just do that really quickly. And now I can go ahead and center this on here. The main thing is to make sure that your foam is all within the perimeter of it, the frame. Push it in place and we're all set. And our shaker works. Nothing's flying out. It's good. Now we could bring in our little pups and figure out where we're going to place them. I'm going to place them on either side of our frame here. I'm going to pop up the little tan pup because he's kind of blending in a bit to our frame. That'll give him some dimension. And then the little husky pup, I'm just going to adhere directly onto the frame. There we go. These guys are so cute. They come from the Dog Days of Summer, like I said. That's a great stamp set, perfect for the summer coming up here before we know it. You have that pup with the shades laying out tanning. You have those 2 pups you have 2 pups playing in the pool, and then the husky and this one little guy here with his little stick. All right, so for our sentiment, I kept a little strip of our pattern paper that I'm going to add to it just to keep that cohesion going. I'm going to adhere that little strip to the base of this here, and then I'll trim away the excess. So I'll glue that there. And then I'll bring in my tiny trimmer and I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to cut that away. I'll save those 2 pieces because you can use that for create more sentiments for something else. And I'm going to decide really quickly. I'm going to bring in my card. Do I want this all the way to one side or do I want it in the center? I choose for the center, so I know I need to cut away some more here on this side. And I still have to trim it because it's slightly wonky. So I have to trim it, straighten it out a bit. And I'm going to fishtail both ends. I just do that by cutting up into the center and then from each corner to the center. So I'm slightly off screen and I'm sorry, but in order for me to see, I have to pull it in closer and it makes it harder for you to see. So again, I snip towards the center and then from each corner to the center, meeting it, creating that little arrow or fishtail end. I'm going to adhere it directly to our frame right in the center. Place that there, and there you go. Our shaker card is all done. So let's go over once again what we used. The Mix and Match Celebration stamp set. Actually, let me grab everything really quick so that we can go over all of it. I use the Emerald Isle pattern paper pack here. That's where we got that beautiful plaid from. The Mix and Match Celebration stamp set. That's where we got our sentiment from. It's perfect for building all sorts. Don't forget we masked because we used the wedding day. The Dog Days of Summer stamp set, which is so fun. There's lots of great samples of that playlist here on the channel. We have our wonderful shaker. Now you're saying, hey Annie, I love dogs, but they're not my jam. Cats are my favorite. I've got you covered. For both cards, I went ahead, let me go ahead and bring in the Pebbled Beach cardstock, which I used with both cards because I'm going to show you another card I created. Here it goes, Pebble Beach. That's where we cut our frame for this card, for our shaker. And then I created another card off screen, and I used the Spring Plaid pattern paper. I used mostly the pink plaid here. I used the banner dies. You get a set of 3 banner dies here. And I brought in Where Hope Blooms. This is a nice set because you have a variety of pets on this one. You have a cat, a bunny, and a dog. Yes, you have a ladybug and such. But I used the bunny right here. Not the bunny, the cat right here. And I created this one, which says, congratulations on your new pet. I used the little cat. The Pebble Beach, I created that little pet. The cat stand from using a die from my stash. And I used it for the sentiment as well. Again, I used the Mix and Match Celebration. I used the smaller font down here. I used the congratulations on your, and then the new pet was from the larger parts of the sentiment. Like I said, this is a great set to have with the great variety of words to create sentiments from. So here are both our cards. We have the element of the shaker here with the pups, and then you have the cute little cat one here. I colored him, also stamped and colored him on Marshmallow Cardstock, and colored him with alcohol markers. I'll have everything listed in the description box below, what I use for both cards. Those will be affiliate links, which will cost you nothing, but just help me out. Thank you for being here. I hope you found some inspiration. Here is another look at both our cards that we created today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them for me below.